Everybody, so welcome back to another video. So today's video we are starting the framing in the van. Right now it's basically just a planning phase. So it's not a bad idea to draw your plans out on paper ahead of time. But some of the issues that we're running into with planning is we're trying to get a whole lot of stuff in the design on the driver's side of the van, including we want a single seat right here. We want a fold down table. Swivels are in. Scopima swivels. Talk about that more later. Had some issues with those. So we want to be able to have two people facing each other with a table in between, a bathroom, a refrigerator, fuse panel access below that, possibly a microwave on top of the refrigerator, and then the bed. So there's a lot of real estate we're trying to cram in over here. So we're really having to get creative with wall thickness. So you can see these are 2x2s. And it's good because they're not only light, but nice and thin. To keep the total weight of the build down. The first time we did this, like for instance for the bed, we used 2x4s. By the time you get, 3/4 inch plywood or whatever on top, that's a lot of weight. So this time we're not going to use anything over a 2x3 in the build, just because it's not necessary. We've gotten a little ahead of ourselves doing all this. Like I said, got the floor done. Next is the ceiling. So we're kind of putting this on pause now that we got it figured out. And got the shower where I wanted it, and I drilled my little pilot hole through the floor. And luckily I'm like right between two frame rails where the drain's gonna come out. So that should work pretty perfect. I'm excited about that. So now we gotta start focusing on the ceiling. So the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna put stringers of wood on each of the metal frame. And just like I said, everything is glued and screwed. We're going to use liquid nails. Since it's gonna be screwed, we're just using liquid nails. We're not using the marine adhesive. And then we're going to be using these 1 1/4 inch. These are self-drilling drywall screws. They're meant for metal drywall, hanging drywall on metal studs. So they will pierce through the van frame and pull everything up tight. So once you have that and the screws, it's a very solid foundation. We're going to insulate with wool insulation, and then we'll be putting cedar tongue and groove ceiling over top of it. Alright, so I actually put the glue on the high points in this would probably make more sense. So this is the secret to keeping squeaks out of your build, is to use something just as simple as liquid nails, regular, and then screw it. It's going to be the difference between having something that squeaks and having something that doesn't. Alright, so we've got that first one put on there. So basically we're just going to do every single other rib the exact same way. The only place where things get a little bit different is up at the front here. You have to decide how you want to finish it. So there's this curve of the roof. So what we're going to do is, this is a cross rail, just like one of these. So we're going to fasten a board that through it, going that way, and we want the wood to kind of come down and tuck just under the fabric lip right here. That way it looks finished. The cedar planks will just sit right there, but they will also be screwed to a board, that's on that rail there. So that should end up looking and working out pretty good. Probably gonna have to get rid of these stupid styrofoam covers. It's like almost impossible to finish those, but we'll worry about that. After we get the ceiling done, we'll try to figure out when we start doing the walls how we're going to trim all this out and still keep it safe for the airbags and everything. Transit's nice because these are very flat, very easy once the ceiling's up to hang cabinets right here on either side. So far, these are a little bit more of a curve than our ProMaster. The ProMaster had the straightest ceiling of all the vans, Sprinter and Transit, so it's a little harder to get these boards to flex into position, but I'm happy with how that turned out. And then back here, obviously we'll be trimming around the fan and the air conditioner, and what we need to do is build this box from the air conditioner. Obviously this will be off of here, but build it so it's the same flush with this board, so when we put the ceiling boards on. So back here, obviously we've got our boards coming across here. They have to have something to finish out on. So we're going to try to kill two birds with one stone. As far as this big wiring harness, some people try to fish it behind the wall. It's pretty difficult to do actually, because it has to be not only unplugged in multiple places, but it's kind of like a big pain to get it all fished out all the way from over here. And then back here, we're going to have to glue, since there isn't a final rib, we're going to have to glue something to the ceiling. And we're going to use that marine adhesive and glue a board to the ceiling, and we will end up finishing it to the exact same height. That way our cedar ceiling comes right to there. And then we'll do some bump outs to get around this wiring back here. But we'll try to get this done tonight. That way the glue can be drying overnight. Just in case anybody's wondering, we got the final cut on this to 61 inches. So we'll see if that translates the rest of the way. So what we're doing is we're cutting the slits in this board. It'll make it bend against the ceiling easier to dry. That way it's not trying to rip itself off the ceiling tonight. And we'll also stick some boards up against it to hold it in place. Here's our board. We're going to use this PL Marine Fast Cure. Get a decent amount of it on here. So let that dry overnight with the heater in here. So now you can see it's basically going to be at the same level as how we trimmed in the fan. And then the next step will be to bring this down to meet this level here and that one back there all the way across. So if we have to rip down a board on the saw, maybe we'll get lucky. We'll see. Alright, so an update. So we removed the foam blocks here. And I'm going to kind of talk about our plan for the ceiling. So we're using cedar. It's tongue and groove. It's very light. Cedar stands up really good to if there were for some reason there would be a roof leak or something like that. And then we're going to be using mineral wool insulation. So kind of my rule is, especially with like this, well, this is Silas or Kilmat or whatever sound deadener, you're kind of wasting your money if you put it everywhere, and you're just adding unnecessary weight to the van. The only places I put it is where there's going to be some sort of resonance. So getting back to, we built this little wood ledge right here because the ceiling boards, the cedar is flexible enough that it's going to kind of curve and then be screwed up into the wood and stop flush with this trim here. And we are going to insulate in here also. It's very important to insulate this area. Otherwise you get a lot of heat, especially in the summer. In the winter you'll lose a lot of warm air through this area up front if you forget to insulate it. And then you can see where the air conditioner is. We've kind of constructed a little bit of structure bracing here. Obviously we glued with liquid nails and then screwed the wood furring strips on every cross rib of the van to get them all level. Back here around the fan, kind of the same situation. We just had to box it out further. Everything's glued. There's marine glue along the top, and then the rest is just regular liquid nails. See, we've got just prelim wiring running. You have to leave yourself a little hole in your box for your wiring to get through. So that's going to be going through the walls, and it'll come into this area, and this is going to be at the whole power center right here, power distribution. You can see I also have the wiring run for the air conditioning, which you can see anywhere it passes through metal, it's got the loom on it and tape, and then it will also be spray foamed from in here to keep it from moving at all. You don't want any kind of chafing. Same thing where it goes through. You can see a pass right here, and then that comes out here. Again, it's sealed so it cannot move, and that runs over. And then we left the hole here for the air conditioner. I'll go back and put a little spray foam in at the end of the build before I put the trim plate on, just to keep any cool air from transferring under the insulation and through this hole. And then same thing, so that's why I use this sound deadener right around the air conditioner here. It's from our last build. Honestly, it was when the compressor was shutting off, not really when it was turning on. And there's just a little resonant thud sound of the compressor shutting off. So in the middle of the night, it was enough that it would kind of wake me up every now and then. So I'm trying to minimize that. So we've got a little more structure because the transit roof is not quite as strong as the ProMaster, and there's a lot more curvature to it. And you'll notice that just if you stand on a ProMaster roof or a transit roof, you'll put dents in a transit roof real easy. So we're bracing this. The maximum weight that Ford says you should put on this area of the roof is 55 pounds without additional bracing. The air conditioner is about 65 pounds, so we're about 10 pounds over. So that's why we did this extra work. It's definitely not going to hurt. I think it would have been fine without it. That's kind of where we're at right now with the framing. We're going to be moving on to, once everything dries, we're going to be able to start actually putting on the tongue and groove cedar, and you'll see we'll start in the middle, kind of work down, and then as we go we'll be pushing insulation underneath. Okay, so remember how I said everything has to kind of be thought about and planned together, and you can't do one thing without the next. So we're to the point where we're ready to start actually putting the ceiling, the cedar ceiling boards on. Obviously we have to think of insulation, so we're going to be using a rock wool insulation. There's all kinds of theories and practices on what is the best insulation for a van. Some people use sheep wool, some people use spray foam insulation, some people just use regular insulation. Thing you have to think about is moisture. There will be moisture in a van. Moisture will at some point get in from the outside in your van, whether it's through a seal or a leaky roof vent or something. So you got to think, what's that going to do to your insulation? So the reason we go with rock wool is because water will not hurt it, and it does not absorb water. Kind of the same properties of real sheep wool insulation. Then I'm also adding some exterior lighting, and which you'll see in a 360 camera system, which is going to be really cool, I think. That way, if you're in the van at night and you've got all your window covers on, you can keep your eyes on every side of the van from inside. More on that in another video, but those are things that I have to worry about right now because all the wiring for the camera has to be routed through the ceiling where it needs to go. There's going to be cameras, like I said, on all four sides. And then the solar panels, I still need to cut a hole for solar panel wiring and the gland for that. And then the last thing I need to cut a hole in the roof for is some antennas. I'm going to have a couple of cellular, they're called NMO mount, You'll see how that looks. Antennas that are installed for a LTE router in the van here. And then I'm probably gonna put a third NMO mount somewhere up in this area here. And then when we have our final build on the walls right here, there's gonna be like a small flat screen TV mounted on the wall. That way, if I do want to have broadcast television, there's gonna at least be an antenna spot for it on the roof. All right, so we're trying to find the center line so we can make sure our first couple boards are perfectly down the center and in a line. If you look, there's these dots here, and there's the 2 dots in the middle. You'll see they're on every one. Right in the middle of those 2 dots is the center. So if you kind of mark on one side, the 2 dots, and then you go around here on the other, put it right in the middle of those 2 dots, and then if you connect the line in the middle, you can kind of go all the way down, and you'll see. So the far right there is our line, but that's how we're finding roughly the center point. Progress on the ceiling. Basically got all the wood up and screwed it, so we're painting it. So we're filling all the screw holes with wood filler and got a first sand and then filled them again. So now we're pretty much ready to get the first coat of paint on. So the ceiling's looking good. Now we're starting to figure out framing for the rear. So what we're going to do is, this is obviously the front of the bed. There's going to be a refrigerator here, and then the bathroom, microwave on top of the refrigerator. So we're getting ready to start framing that whole build out area here. Obviously on this side, it'll just be a kitchen the whole way. Finishing up the ceiling. We got 4 coats of white paint on the ceiling, and now I'm putting in the lights. So in the front, you notice the front 2 are on. What I did was have this little switch right here. So basically the factory wiring right here, this harness, depending on what model van you have. So we had a couple LED lights that went in the ceiling that plug in right here. We moved them into the back temporarily because there's plugs all down the side of the van. So that's what those lights are. But what I did is I diode protected these 2 front lights on both inputs. So there's power coming in, which will be from one of these cords over here from a light switch, and that powers all the lights in the roof of the van except for the bathroom. So I diode protected the input to that, and then the input from the van wiring. So now you can see, basically that means the door's open, that red light. It also means there's power going to it. And you can see it turns off. So you can either leave this in the on position, and then these front lights will work with the door opening and closing. They don't actually blink, that's just how it looks on camera. It's them fading out. Or you can turn the switch off and the lights will still work with the light switch, but they won't come on with the door. So like if you're getting in and out at night, someone else is sleeping, you don't have to worry about it. So just a little detail like that. Pretty easy to do, but might make a big difference. So I'm just joining all the wires. These lights that I bought, one with the stripe is the negative. So using these heat shrink butt connectors. You could solder, you could even use wire caps or something, but since I'm going down the road, I want something a little more secure. All right, once this is cooled down a little bit, and stuff everything up in the ceiling. And these little clips just grab the ceiling. Like that. So on my last one, that'll be done, and I'm going to wire the fan up real quick before I put the cover for that on. Alright, last thing to do is take my drill battery, test the lights here. It's good, so they all work. The bathroom has its own light switch, obviously. I'm ready to put on the last piece, which is this cover for the fan. You may notice that I've got this Van Essential magnetic cover on it. It's important to set that up beforehand. Then I took my measurement for my depth, and what you do is you just take this, it's gonna be too big, you stick it in until it stops and you draw a line. And after you have the line, in this case it was to here, this was about this long. That's not the actual line you cut. You take whatever this measurement was and then measure from here to that point, or redraw the line, and that will allow this to sit up in there flush with the ceiling. So I taped these magnets on. They're really strong. They kind of jump into place. You can see that, and that's what holds the cover on. So I can take the cover off now. I'm just put a little F for the front. And you kind of have to just watch the wiring. Alright, well that does it for the ceiling video. We're going to wrap this one up. You can see you got the lights in and working, got the AC cover on, and the fan cover. I'm liking what I'm seeing so far. So be sure to leave a comment, question below. Be sure to like the video, subscribe for more. Follow along with the build on our 2023 Transit van conversion. Till next time, thank you for watching.